think Rory Stewart, in a lot of ways, actually is the true face of conservatism in Britain. And by that, I mean the kind of conservatism associated with the Conservative Party, in that he is a kind of effete, softly spoken, skinny, liberal man, without much in the way of strong opinions. He's not overly offensive in the way that some of these other kind of liberal people are. Like, he's not unpalatable. Like, he doesn't seem like an unpleasant person to be around, but he's just so incredibly weak.
This is one of the worst moments of the year, but it's also one of those moments that I take a lot of glee in. It makes me happy to relive this. It's election night in the US, and Rory Stewart, the centrist dad who presents alongside Alistair Campbell on The Rest is Politics, a guy who ridiculously used to claim that he was a conservative, gets it so wrong about Kamala Harris. Watch.
It does look like women have not turned out in the same numbers as expected for her.
No, it's completely fascinating. I mean, and of course, when a result happens, you rewrite history. If she was currently winning, we'd have a very good answer for why she was winning. Abortion would be number one. Number two, she had much more money than he did.
3 times.
Number three, she had a real ground game. People were very clear. All my friends out in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Trump's people were nowhere to be seen. Were swamped with Democrats, leafleting, hitting every door. We had Anthony say in the first part of the show that there were almost so many Democratic volunteers out, they couldn't even find doors for them to knock, right? Add to that a whole series of narratives about a campaign where she didn't really do anything wrong. She barely put a foot wrong during the campaign. And where Trump has been convicted of over 30 felonies, he's been responsible for the January 6th insurrection. You could provide a pretty good story for why she won, but she didn't. Which then means that we need to and you know, my friend Lichtman, you were teasing me about my friend Lichtman, he also called it for Kamala Harris, and he would have said, no, it's nothing about that. It's also about the fundamentals. The economy was going reasonably okay in terms of GDP per capita. There were no major scandals. There were no major foreign policy catastrophes. So actually, in terms of basic competence over 4 years, the incumbent, Biden, had ticked a lot of boxes. So all of that.
Just the most extraordinary reaction. Chris Davies, what's more, remember Rory Stewart before that vote had said he'd happily bet £100,000 on the fact that she would win.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, it's interesting where he was going through his little mental checklist there at the end. Yeah, Biden did put a lot of ticks in a lot of boxes. Unfortunately, they were all the wrong boxes. A bit like Eric Morecambe playing the piano, all the right notes, just in the wrong order. And the same goes for Biden. Rory Stewart, really, he needs to stop doing what he does, opening his mouth without engaging his brain. And of course, he's egged on by Alistair Campbell because that suits the narrative. But he would be better off, I think, having a quieter 2025. I don't want to deprive him of a platform, Dan, because he gives me endless hours of amusement. But suffice to say, as I think you probably know, when it came to election night, I wasn't watching Channel 4, I wasn't watching Rory Stewart. And like you, I absolutely delighted in rubbing the noses of those that back the Democrats facing it.
Indeed. Yeah, and I mean, look, this is the difference, isn't it, between us on the right of politics, Charlie, and those on the left. Of course, we're not saying, oh, let's deplatform Rory Stewart, but shouldn't we just realise now, Charlie, that virtually any prediction Rory Stewart makes alongside Alistair Campbell is going to be the wrong one. They are on the wrong side of history on virtually every major political issue.
Yeah, he reliably gets all of his predictions and takes wrong, almost completely incorrect, like in the inverse of what actually has happened. But there comes times in politics, especially in this country, where these figures emerge that they embody a certain vibe, they embody a certain aspect of the current culture. And I think Rory Stewart, in a lot of ways, actually is the true face of conservatism in Britain. And by that, I mean the kind of conservatism associated with the Conservative Party, in that he is a kind of effete, softly spoken, skinny, liberal man, without much in the way of strong opinions. He's not overly offensive in the way that some of these other kind of liberal people are. Like, he's not unpalatable. Like, he doesn't seem like an unpleasant person to be around, but he's just so incredibly weak in his views, in his convictions, in his ideas about what constitutes good government, in the way that the country should be run, and this sort of thing. And so I think in a weird sort of way, he's actually quite an instructive figure, because we can look to him and understand a certain aspect of the way that our elites think. Because like I say, I think he does actually embody a lot of their beliefs. So actually, like Chris, I agree that he should continue to have a platform, because he is actually, in a strange sort of way, quite an educational figure, because he does represent this style of politics that is just so outdated and so disconnected from the concerns of ordinary people.
And you would say, presumably, a good example as to why the Uni Party, why the Conservative Party needs to be effectively replaced on the right.
Totally. I mean, if you put a guy like Rory Stewart, I mean, the fact that he's alongside Campbell is quite funny, because if you put him in a room with, for example, Blair, who is ultimately the architect of the present system that we live under, that has done so much damage to our country through things like mass migration, but also the complete transformation of our political institutions and all the rest of it, I think that they would find very little to disagree on, because they are very much cut from the same cloth, very much of the same political type. They, again, have the same ideas about what constitutes good government. And the fact alone that that is the case, the fact that he was a Conservative MP and that Blair was the leader of the Labour Party, I think tells you all you need to know about the absolute hair's breadth of difference between those two parties, even to this day, even after all of the 14 years of chaos that they inflicted on us. And they still appear not to, and of course, Stewart isn't in the mainstream Conservative Party anymore, but he still represents, I think, a contingent of that party very, very much. I think he is completely reflective of the liberal wing of the Conservative Party. So yeah, I think that those types need to be chased out of mainstream politics, because they've had their time and they've done enough damage to the country already.
Yes, exactly. Get out of mainstream politics, Rory Stewart. First, though, hot flashes, sleepless nights, weight gain, joint pain. I know a lot of you are dealing with or have dealt with these symptoms, especially the women in the Outspoken family. Now, obviously, I haven't experienced menopause firsthand, but I have heard from many of you about the challenges that come with it. So today, good news. By now, most of you have heard me talk about Verso. I've been taking their products since near the beginning of the year, and I have to be honest, transformed me last year. But today, I want to focus on all of you amazing women out there, especially those dealing with menopause or perimenopause. I've heard from so many of you about how tough this phase of life can be. Well, Celbene by Verso is designed to target those symptoms head on by addressing the root cause. It's formulated with ingredients that are proven to increase NAD+ levels. Now, that is huge, because NAD+ is what keeps your cells healthy and energized, but it drops off as we age, and especially during menopause. But here's the big thing. Boosting NAD+ can make a big difference to how you feel. So women who've taken Celbene are reporting some pretty amazing changes, actually. Hot flashes disappearing, more energy, joint pain relief, weight loss, and mental clarity. Some listeners have even told me their periods have come back or have become regulated. So they actually feel like they're turning back the clock on aging. That's not a surprise, because the ingredients in Celbene have shown to balance hormones without going the traditional hormone therapy route. It also helps with inflammation and metabolism, which is especially helpful for managing weight and keeping you feeling your best. Plus, these research-backed ingredients have been shown to improve bone health, which is crucial for postmenopausal women at risk of osteoporosis. Now, what I love about Celbene, I think you will too, is that it doesn't just mask the symptoms of menopause, it tackles the root causes of aging, helping you feel stronger, healthier, and more energized from the inside out. So if you haven't tried it yet and you're ready to take back control of your health and feel more like yourself, click on the link in the description on YouTube or Rumble just below this video in the show notes, or head on over to buy.ver.so/outspoken. If you use the coupon code outspoken today, when you check out, you will save 15% on your first order. Believe me, this is the perfect way to start the year, because if you're tired of the sleepless nights, the hot flashes, or just feeling off, you can give Celbene a try. It helped me so much. Gosh, last year now. It feels so weird saying that. Last year. But absolutely, I'm going to be continuing to take it in 2025. So to repeat, that's buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code outspoken. But now, back to the show. When the UK authorities threatened Elon Musk with arrest, here's Mark Rowley, the chief of the Met Police.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets, or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Talk to me about that, because we have seen some high-profile figures whipping up the hatred. You talked about it in there with the officers, in fact, about this being added to by online commentary. I mean, I'm even thinking of the likes of Elon Musk getting involved. What are you considering when it comes to dealing with people who are whipping up this kind of behaviour from behind a keyboard and maybe in a different country?
Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law. You can be guilty of offences of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offences regarding the sort of publishing of material. All of those offences are in play if people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we will come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets the thugs and the obs who are causing the problems for communities.
Charlie Downes, this was one of the most embarrassing moments for the UK internationally, because we knew who he was talking about. We knew who the keyboard warrior was. Oh yeah, just the richest guy in the world who's actually trying to shine a light on some of the authoritarian, totalitarian tactics being used by the British police. So I know, let's threaten him with arrest. Well, he just ended up embarrassing Mark Rowley, didn't he? Because he said, well, I'm just not going to come to the UK because they're probably going to end up arresting me.
Yeah, well, we have to remember the kind of national climate at the time. It was a very, very strange, unstable period for our country. And I think that the police really, I mean, you know, the riots were disastrous, but the events that led to the riots were also catastrophic. It was just a really dark period of the year. But I think the police really got above their station, to be honest. Like those kinds of comments from Mark Rowley, where they're talking about policing, quote, keyboard warriors, which when I was growing up was a phrase that was completely, you know, that was in the domain of the internet. The fact that that's spilled out over into real life now and is being used by high profile, you know, agents of the state is kind of funny in and of itself. But Elon Musk, it's interesting the dynamic that we have with this particular individual, because I think there's a case to say that he as an individual is actually more powerful than the entire British state, in part because of his, you know, just the sheer amount of capital that he has behind him, but also his, you know, his connections with the US government, obviously a lot more directly now that Trump has won the election in the US. But, you know, the idea, it just comes across like a petulant kid trying to go after someone who's way bigger than him, way older than him. And it was just really embarrassing, to be honest.
Chris Davies, what was your take on this?
Dan, it's David against Goliath, where David happens to be the richest man in the world. But for all the right reasons, David wins. I'm not even sure that Elon Musk would know who Mark Rowley is, and less still care. When you've spent the sort of money that he has to guarantee free speech across the globe, to have a whippersnapper from the Met Police backed by Sadiq Khan whipping at his heels, I'm sure Elon will rest easy in his bed at night.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.